Okay, how the race was won. Going to do a little voiceover of the full race. Did some fairly good GoPro footage of the race itself. This race was done on the 15th of April and it was a Masters race at Ennerdale Cycle Circuit in Hull. So after a really effective warm-up, the race started at 9:30. So went through the usual warm-up protocol on the rollers for 15 minutes, followed by some efforts done on the cycle circuit, and then we lined up for the race itself. Now, on the start of the race, I think there was about 18 of us on this day. The guy in front of me here, number 3 in the light blue top, won't give you his full name, but that's Dave, and I've raced with him many times before. Very strong rider and very tactically aware. He's a guy that I'm kind of looking out for a little bit in this race, because I've kind of notified him as one of the stronger guys. Like I say, we've raced each other a lot, so I've got my eyes on him, but equally I'm not ruling anyone else out. I raced this race the week before, and it wasn't him that won it. It was another guy, and even the race the week before that, it wasn't him that won it. So there's a lot to play for. Anything can happen, and just because you're one of the stronger riders doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win the race. But I have got my eye on him. Now, it was a very easy start to the race. Not a great deal happened. I was going into this event super chill, and kind of just letting the first 5-10 minutes just kind of come into fruition, seeing how people were feeling and what the general thoughts were for the race. I was quite happy to sit off the back for a fair amount of time. You can see that Dave launches a move quite early, and this was a reoccurring theme actually. There was Dave kept trying to kind of initiate a move quite early on. The pace was fairly slow when he wasn't making these moves, but being sat on the back of the group, I was pretty chill. Every time Dave launched an attack, I was very mindful if anyone else was to go with him. But it was a very uneventful first 10 minutes. If anyone else was to join Dave, I would be there to capitalise on that from the back. And if I thought it was a move that was worthwhile following, I was there to respond as well. But I was very mindful that I had another race to follow this. I was doing 2 races that day, so I didn't want to burn too many matches. I was also mindful at this point that we're only 5 minutes into the race. Everyone is fairly fresh, and every time Dave was trying to make a move, the same guy was sat on the front of the group and responding to the move immediately from the front of the pack, which is very unfortunate for Dave, but made the first 10 minutes of the race nice and easy for me, and I could just sit back and watch and relax. Now, this is a fairly key part in the race. This guy here in front of me just took that corner a little bit unsteady, and did let a little gap go. So I did have to do a little bit of a chase on there. Nothing too significant. Luckily, I was on the right side of him and I could just nip up the inside, press the pedals fairly hard for 10 seconds or so, and then just get straight back on. At this point onwards, I was quite keen to make something happen now. I realised I was on a good set of legs. Nothing was really working at the minute, and I kind of pinpointed a point in the circuit where I wanted to try and instigate a move. So we're coming down the back straight now. Dave's in front of me there, and I am at the back of the group. I quite quickly realised that Dave is on the left-hand side of the road and is a little bit boxed in, and the pace of the pack quite quickly eases up. We're barely doing 200 watts here. So I'm coming down the right-hand side of the road, we kick left, and then in a minute we're going to kick right. This is where I start to press on the pedals slightly harder, because as we come into this right-hand turn, it's quite a long sweeping right-hander, and no one's going to want to attack or accelerate on a corner while they're banked over. So this is where I make a bit of a move. I don't do a significant massive smash of the pedals, I just ramp it up, get a bit of a gap, and then once I've got 5 seconds on the pack, that's when I start to drill it. Someone was watching this move and they were on my tail as I started the move, so he basically followed me straight through, and we made a bit of a two-man break, and it worked really well actually. At the time I wasn't aware, but obviously once he came through and just before this corner, I was aware that it was me and him, me and this one guy that were going away from it. Now he came through really strong actually, and made a bit of a gap once he first came through, which was a bit of a surprise, but I was quick onto it and snapped straight on the pedals. And fair play to this guy, because he absolutely drilled it for about a good two-thirds of a lap. And at this point onwards, we probably had 5-10 seconds on the rest of the group. So it was just me and him. And to be honest, I thought that was a good, well-timed move. So we did a bit of a two-up for roughly a lap and a half, which is roughly a minute and a half worth of effort. And then I start to take a little bit of a look back, which isn't always advised, but it's good to know, how much generally what you're doing to the pack. So I kind of a bit of a look back roughly at this point, and I noticed that there was some moves going off from the peloton. So from the main group, there was clearly some worry about this move. I think they remember this guy that I'm with, and he did pretty well in the race last time. He's got a good set of legs, and he pulls strong. And obviously I got a good result last week as well, so I think there was a bit of nervousness in the group, thinking this could be a move to follow. I don't know who instigated the chase, but I can only assume it was probably Dave or somebody else. And they were quite quickly onto it. So just fast forwarding a little bit, we spent roughly 2.5-3 laps as a two-man break. And then, looking back, I realised that we were joined. We were joined by 4 other people in the end. Again, I don't know who instigated that bridge, but these 4 other riders came to join us after about 2.5 laps as a two-up. And that obviously made a 6-man break. So out of, like I say, roughly 15 to 18 riders total, we made a 6-man formation at the front, and this lasted essentially for the full race then. So by this point, like I say, we're roughly 15 minutes into the race, and then this lasted for the entirety of the race. 6 people, all going through and off, all taking turns, and it was working well. We were pulling away from the rest of the peloton. To be honest, there was splits all the way through the rest of the race at this point onwards, and all 6 of these riders were making an attempt to keep away from the rest of the peloton. Now, from my perspective, the type of rider that I am, I don't have a fantastic long-term sustained power, but what I do have, full disclosure, is I have a fairly good kick and a fairly good kind of 30-second to 1-minute power. So from my perspective, it would be foolish to try and break this up and make any long-range moves from my perspective. There was obviously within this group some stronger riders and some slightly weaker riders, but I was more than happy, if it came to it, to take this group all the way to the line, because I know that I can finish a race okay. So I'm just happy to pull turns, not too hard, for everyone to make rotation. And even if this came all the way down to the last lap with these 6 people, I know that I'd be fairly confident to finish this race off. I'm sure there'll be people in this group with the opposite of mentality and thinking that they need to make some splits because they maybe can't finish a race off that well. And I'm very mindful of that. So I'm not just fully relaxing, I'm keeping a watchful eye on what might happen. And I believe from time to time, certain people potentially started to try and split people off. And I believe Dave was one of them. Now and again, he would just kind of do a hard pull on the front to try and catch some people out and make a bit of a split out of this group. But I think everyone was fairly happy, just to know that they're going to get a top 6 at least. All make fairly good pulls on the front and all work together. So like I say, this lasted through the entirety of the race as 6 people. I believe with about 3 laps to go, one person did struggle to keep on the back and got dropped from the group. But we were coming into 2 laps to go with a group of 5 or 6 people. And it was only the point with about a lap and a half to go where one person, also called Dave, made a move and a really strong hard pull with about a lap and a half to go. Unfortunately, I've somehow managed to lose that footage of the last 5 laps, so I'm going to bring it in with about half a lap to go. So last lap, one man up the road, he launched his move with just over a lap to go and the chase is on. I managed to find a wheel and I sit on that wheel and he thankfully drags me right up to the back of Dave's wheel. So we start the video again where I'm just in 4th place, just off the back of Dave's wheel. I've made a move, I've got onto the back of the wheel and we're on the last corner. We start the sprint. That guy in front of Dave has been pulling hard for a good 30 seconds or so now. I know he's tiring. I wait. As soon as I see Dave kick round on the right hand side, I go left. I sprint, I kick, I give absolutely everything. That's the guy up the road there that I'm gaining on quickly. Go through to the left and cross the line in first. Brilliant, absolute euphoria and a perfectly timed move to catch up to the guy that was up the road with about 10 meters before the finish line.